Good evening. Hi. Let's hope the technology works. Here I am in Italy, quite excited about tonight's live. I think we're on time. Usually I do lives every Sunday evening, but this last Sunday just gone, I had a lot on, so I'm doing it this evening. If you can't watch when we go live right now, you can watch it back. It's available immediately, and you can, if you subscribe, which you really should by now, and you hit the bell, it'll tell you when I post something live or when I do an update video. So yeah, that's the benefit of subscribing. Please like the video when you come in. If you just hit the like button as you come in, then you won't forget, and it makes a huge difference to the channel. I say this every time because people just forget, and it makes it easier for YouTube to suggest to other people looking for the same content. Okay, so what are we talking about tonight? We're talking about tax, retiring in Europe, and which countries are the most favorable. Now, this is one of the most requested things on my channel. I have avoided talking about tax directly because people usually get into a discussion about their own particular tax, and I'm not a tax specialist. I should be after what I've been through living in Europe for the last 22 years. But yeah, I'm not handing out tax advice here. So if that's what you're hoping, that you're going to come here and I'm going to solve all your tax problems, no. I'm going to tell you which countries in Europe are the most favorable. I'm going to cover Italy, where I live at the moment, France, and various other countries, Portugal, Spain, and a couple of other European countries that you may want to compare. Right. Who was it who said, it could have been Shakespeare, it could have been somebody else who said, all comparisons are odious. Well, I'm going to be odious tonight because I'm going to make comparisons because you've asked me to. I know you want to know, how does France compare to Italy? How does Italy compare to some other countries? And which countries are advantageous and where you can retire on your social security, your pension, okay, that you get from paying in for your whole life, right? Why am I doing this evening? I'm doing this evening because it keeps coming up, and I feel that there are lots of people vlogging about Italy, about, pizza, pasta, mandolins, the Amalfi Coast, all this lovely stuff, but they just avoid all the nitty-gritty of every day. What I also want to say is the people who follow me on the channel are people who are normal people living frugally like me, who don't have money to splash around, a lot of it. And the rich may not watch this channel. I don't know, you could be rich and you're watching my channel. Hey, I'm happy anyway. Just don't forget to like it. But the rich generally have a tax, specialist. They have structures set up to be tax-free, to be an offshore. So please don't say, but this is not the only option. I'm just covering the everyday person who wants to retire in Italy, France, the countries I mentioned, and is retiring on their social security, which is entirely possible. So that answers that question. I'm going to answer some of the questions that have been sent to me tonight. So if you're just joining me or you're joining me for the first time, my name's Amanda. I'm here in Italy, and I'm talking about living in the Bel Paese, Italy, or living in beautiful France, or living in beautiful Portugal, or Spain. I'm going to make the comparison between them. I'm going to tell you what it costs, what you have to go through to get a visa to be here. So buckle in, get something nice to drink. I've got my tea in my beautiful mug. I don't know if you can see that. It's my Emma Bridgewater mug that a darling family member brought me from England. David Austin is the rose expert. I love roses. If you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that. And this is the Emma Bridgewater mug. And inside it says, roses all my life. And that's completely true. Should be talking about roses, really, but we're talking about tax and retiring. So this is an important subject because lots of people want to know, if I come to Italy and I buy a house, or I don't buy a house, or I apply for the elective visa, how does it work? Okay, so I'm going to go country by country. I'm going to first talk about Italy. And if you have a question, you can either put it down in the chat box. If you come in, please put your name and where you're joining us from. Just your first name's fine. And where which country you're joining us from. It helps it be more interesting. And in the past, I've had a group of, 30 international, even 50. That would be wonderful. People who join us from all over the world. And I hope that will be true. This may not be a good time for you if you're in the States. Perhaps you are still at work. For sure, you probably are, depending on where you are in the States. And if you're in Europe, maybe you're still having dinner. I don't know. But you can watch it back, and please leave me your comments there if you have questions for me. Right. Let's get right to it. So, I posted a video last week about, can you live in Europe, Italy, on your social security pension? Okay. And I will hook the video up there. I will connect it here so you can go and watch that. And it's in my whole playlist of all the European videos. You can work your way through those and all your questions will be answered. And it'll help me with views, obviously. I try to be useful, and I try to not just gloss over, beautiful fashion. I'm surrounded by beautiful fashion, beautiful food, wonderful cities in Italy, all that lovely stuff. My home, my lifestyle, the way I live, frugally. But at the end of the day, so many people are getting the wrong information about coming to Italy in particular, is my favorite pet hate. And on these Facebook groups, they're very closed. And if you try and say, but hey, the truth is ABC, they just shut you down because they want, there's always a doorkeeper and they can be quite mean. I mean, somebody can just come with their dreams, and say, oh, I went to Sicily on holiday. I really want to buy a house. I've heard about the €1 scheme, blah, blah, blah. Or I'd love to buy a house, or I already own a house. And they just keep hitting them with, da, 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 these are the rules, da, 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 da. So it's not a very, the soil is not that fertile to find out what you need to do. And that's why I'm here. Honestly, I do this because I really need to help people. And I don't want to see any more sad and broken people running away from Italy because they made a crucial mistake and they didn't get the right information. And they were sent to a tiny village halfway up a mountain in the south of Italy to get some kind of tax advantage or to get some kind of cheap house. Which doesn't serve them because they can't drive, because their license needs to be renewed after a year, Americans, or they are nowhere near good hospitals. And as we get older, I'm not a spring chicken, but even I have to consider, where is a decent hospital? What is the medical care going to be like for me? Is it accessible? How much do I have to pay for it? These questions are crucial and they cannot be ignored. They cannot be ignored. So I don't ignore them. And for some people, it's not romantic enough. And I'm not just going under the Tuscan sun and talking about lying in a field, with olives and poppies and hay bales. Yeah, I've done all of that. And I also post shorts of these lovely things, eating gorgeous food or whatever. But on the lives, this is what we do. We talk about the reality that people need to know the answers to. So that's enough. Okay, I've explained why I'm doing it. So Italy, let's look at Italy first. So Italy has an elective visa. There is no age limit or requirement, so you can retire at any age you want. The requirement is that you have a passive income of 31,000 euros. I'm always talking in euros. What is passive income? Passive income means it comes from pension contributions, it comes from your investments. So you're not able to work. There is no work you can do. So anybody who's telling you you can go to Italy and, I don't know, pick olives, or, I don't know, become an estate agent, to do whatever you like on this visa, you can't. You cannot work. In France, it's called the inactive visa for that exact reason. You can't work on it. So let's go back to Italy. It's the elective visa. You need, I'm going to hook up the video for that too, and you can go through all of that. I don't want to limit this to just listing what you need for these visas. But one of the requirements is that you have a year's rent, that you have a year's medical insurance, and that you, if you're in Italy and you get this elective visa, the sad news is you're going to pay tax on this pension that you're living on, and you're going to be taxed on your worldwide assets. So this is something that many people overlook when they're looking at Italy, because people often send them something, oh, but there's the 7% rule, there's the 7% allowance for certain places. Those certain places, mostly in the south, but could be also central and north, are places that have been depopulated. They are keen to get them going again and bring new fresh blood in. But if you want to be on pension and you want to retire here and enjoy the good life, and why shouldn't you? It's what I'm doing. You don't want to be, struggling in a town that doesn't have anything open, that doesn't have facilities, that perhaps doesn't have a hospital nearby, all of that stuff. You don't want to do that. These things matter a lot. Okay, so maybe you do qualify in your town that you've chosen because somebody advised you for the 7%. In other words, you would only pay 7%. The actual tax in Italy is incredibly high. Most people who earn money in Italy, by earn money, I mean on a salary, let's say of 3,000, which is considered a livable salary for most professional people. They're paying over 40%, 43%. Some of them who earn more than that can be close to 50 if you take the taxes, that their total taxes that they pay on bonuses, on a car allowance, on all the other stuff that's included in their package. The income tax in Italy is incredibly high. There have been many discussions about this. Some say it's because only half of the Italian population actually pays tax. The rest are tax evaders, don't pay tax. They've found some way to jimmy the system, the whole story. You know the story. So tax is huge here. It's very expensive. And if you're coming to retire here, you're going to be taxed, because this is something that I cover a lot. And I keep saying it, and people, I don't know, maybe people are confused, and that's okay. That's all right. That's what I'm here for. You can only be tax resident in one country. You can't be tax resident in two countries. So if you're coming from UK or Australia or America or whatever, and you decide that your residence is going to be based in Italy, you're going to be a resident here, you apply for this elective visa, you go through the 1 year, whatever. As I say, the video's up there. You can look at the requirements. You are now considered tax resident in Italy. And according to the agreements, you will be taxed on your worldwide assets. This can be very, very crucial for you and should never be ignored. So there's that. If you are American, you probably already know, and if you don't, you should, that you are always obliged to send an American tax return wherever you live in the world. That's how it is. You can obviously decide to not continue with your dual citizenship, to not continue to be an American citizen, but that's a whole nother discussion. I'm simply saying that you will be taxed on your worldwide assets. Okay, great. So, which countries are more favorable? I'm just looking how many of you have liked this video. Which countries are more favorable? I'm going to give you a list of the countries in which they do not tax pensions. Right. Before we get to the list, let's skip over to France. So, France. I have been chatting a bit, if you've been following me on the last few videos on retiring in Europe, I've been talking about France, what France is like compared to Italy. I just spent 2 weeks doing a bit of research. I hope you have a drink. You should get a glass of wine, or I don't know, whatever you want. Whatever you have in the evening after dinner, a gin and tonic, a cup of tea like me, or a coffee. You need something to get us through this tax discussion. So I spent 2 weeks really researching the cost of living in France. In the past, I've worked a lot into Paris, so I have a good grasp on Paris and the cities around Fontainebleau and those kind of cities, because for a long time, let's say about 15 years ago, maybe 13 years ago, I was covering conferences in France and across Europe, and I got to know what it's like to live in Paris, had various friends living there permanently, and really got to know the ins and outs of how France works in terms of Paris. And then this last summer, I spent 2 weeks in the Lyon area and absolutely loved it. Loved it and couldn't get enough of it, and toured some of the villages around Lyon, the Lyon area, which is southeast France, which I found absolutely fascinating and loved. And I've put some of those videos up, so you can go and watch them. They're in a collection. They're in my playlist of travel and food and all of those, because I also have those videos for those of you who are interested in that. And recently I've been chatting to a few friends who live in France, one of whom retired on her social security pension, is paying rent, did not buy a house, is not wealthy, but came from the States and retired on her social security and hired a flat, rented a flat, and is doing very well and loving France. So what I'm basing the things that I tell you is not general ideas or stuff that I fetched out of the air. It's based on my personal experience with people I know and facts that I have in my hands. And if not in my hands, certainly in my head. Okay, lovely. Okay, so that's France. Okay. Another country, Portugal, that many people go to retire to. Portugal is a little problematic at the moment because Portugal was sold as the be-all and end-all. They had the NHR, the non-habitual resident visa, in which a lot of digital nomads, UK people in particular, people from all over the States, Australia, I don't know, name a country, they went there because of this non-habitual resident. And so they had a special tax dispensation where they paid reduced tax. Okay. Plus they had the golden visa, which was based on buying a property starting at $500,000 and going up. And that, and in certain areas, it could be even less than $500,000 if they were, again, underdeveloped areas where you could buy a property and restore it or whatever. So there were certain advantageous tax advantages to doing this golden visa. If you bought a property in an undeveloped area and did it up, you could do it for even less than $500,000. Okay, great. So that was there. And floods of people came. Some people got the golden visa, and the rule was that you had to pass a Portuguese exam, and then you could get citizenship. It's great. I mean, it wasn't a high level Portuguese. It was, I think, B1. Correct me if I'm wrong. Most countries, Italy, the same. For citizenship, you need a B1 level of Italian, and France is the same. All these countries are the same for citizenship, not for residence. Obviously, you can be resident without speaking the language, but it helps. And I've covered that in so many of my videos, and it's something I say over and over again. Do not estimate how difficult it's going to be if you don't speak the language or don't have somebody with you who can speak the language and help you. Lovely. Okay, so Portugal. Then what happened is, as has happened in many European cities, and we can't ignore this because it comes up time and time again, it's happened in Spain, where the locals started to revolt. Airbnbs exploded all over Portugal. I mean, literally in Lisbon, when I first went to Lisbon and I was there working on and off for 2 years, you could get a lovely apartment for 500-600 euro. Really great. Everything was lovely. Food was cheap. It was a wonderful place to be, Portugal. And as I mentioned, people flooded in. Okay. And they decided, hey, we can live here. We can, plug into this non-habitual resident situation. We can get our permit to stay. La, 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 la. The Portuguese bureaucracy is traditionally extremely slow, but Italy's slow, and I think they're all slow. I mean, yeah, it's the government. What can I say? Anyway, so Portugal benefited a lot from all this investment that came. And remember, Portugal was an incredibly poor country that was under the rule. It was downtrodden. It was the downtrodden country of Europe, and it had this complete revival, and all this investment money poured in, and all the buildings got done up, everything got painted. It bore no relation to how it was, 25 years ago, and the rule of the despots. But yes, it was the new European success story. It was fabulous. And so many people went, especially from England, where they were craving sun, went to Portugal, flocked there and just enjoyed it and paid this reduced tax or no tax for 5 years dispensation. And it was all great. And they invested their money, they bought homes and whatever. And then the government, under pressure from the locals who couldn't rent an affordable apartment anymore, who couldn't buy all these houses being bought by foreigners because everything had been upgraded and they just couldn't afford it anymore. And they said, no, this is not right. Our country's been stolen from us. And so the government, under huge pressure, did away with the golden visa for Portugal. A sad day indeed. And the NHR program was also scrapped. And they are working on some new rules. I don't know what they're going to be. But as we stand now, that's where Portugal is. And lots of people went to Portugal under the old rules and have done very well. I follow various vloggers who are living in Portugal, renovating. Renovating is a huge theme on YouTube. I renovated my house in Italy some years ago, so I can't cash in on the renovation theme. As much as I would like to sometimes be talking about renovation. But here we are. And so, yes, Portugal scrapped that old law, and they're busy formulating new laws. Okay? France has similar retirement visa to Italy. In Italy, it's called the elective because you elect to come here. You don't have an age, but you need the passive income. In France, too, you need the passive income. You can't work. And hence it's called the inactive visa. And in my research of France last summer, I discovered that it's very livable. I did some videos. You can have a look at my playlist of what it costs to do a grocery shop. Really interesting. I found it comparable and slightly cheaper on some things than Italy. The rent, certainly in the area I was less. I can't compare Paris prices because because Paris is in its own bubble, like London, like Paris, like New York, like Milan. These, you can only compare these cities with each other. You can't compare them with a city like Lyon, which is the third biggest population in France. You can't make the comparison. They're not the same. It's comparing apples and pears. So in terms of the big cities, London, Paris, New York, you know the cities. We've been through them before. They all compare, but I found it affordable. I think you can rent a place, a two-bedroom apartment for less possibly than you could in a comparable Italian city, which would have the same population as Lyon and the lovely villages around, which are serviced by amazing links, trains, buses. You know, I found it very doable. So that was a surprise for me, for France. Spain. Okay, Spain has been super popular with Brits in particular, like Portugal, because it's so sunny. Italy is also sunny, France is sunny, apart from the extreme north, Normandy, but they also get quite a lot of sun. But it's certainly more sunny than it is in UK and from other countries like Sweden, Norway, up the north, and Netherlands. So these, you know, these southern countries have always been, yeah, everybody's dream because it's always summer. We do have an amazing cold winter, but they ignore that. Anyway, this past winter was pretty cold where I'm, you know, an hour from Milan Lake Maggiore, as I say on nearly every video. But yeah, we get a cold winter. There's snow on all the Alps around us, but you know, people love the sun. So Spain has had a recent, it's been in the news a lot because tons and tons, I know that tons is not a precise number, but a whole lot of British people retired to Spain because before Brexit, and Brexit became the deciding factor, and most of what I'm doing in these videos is because before Brexit, people could leap back and forth. They had a business in UK, they would go and spend 4 months in Spain, do a bit of, I don't know, whatever job they were doing, pool renovation, building, whatever, keep their business in UK, be UK based in terms of tax, and just jump back and forth. And there were no limitations. And this happened in France, it happened in Italy. There are lots of people who were living part of the year in France and then, you know, permanently resident in UK, using the health services in England. They were resident there. They were just spending a lot of time in Europe, and they could because UK was part of Europe. Then Brexit happened and everything changed. And suddenly people now need to apply if they want to be resident in one of these European countries. And so Brexit changed everything. And you could no longer have a foot in both places. You could no longer decide how long you want to be anywhere. So for people who bought a house here in Europe and were leaping back and forth between England or America, or wherever it was, or what they call the third countries now, they're not part of the European Union, they suddenly realize that they don't have rights to permanent residence. So they own a house here and they've been coming here for years. And so they fall under the 90-day rule. So, yeah, they can only, after 3 months, they've got to get out of the European Union, or even before 3 months, because they could be in the country when their days run out. And so this created a big problem for lots of people. And yes, they no longer can think of retiring in their house that they owned in France or in Italy or in Spain or in Portugal, unless they have an elective visa or a digital nomad visa. But a digital nomad visa, and I cover that in another video, the specifics of the digital nomad visa for Italy, for all the countries. That's another option, but you have to work and you have to prove that you have income for the last year. This is not just a general sum suck of your income. You need provable bank records. So going back to the Brexit situation where people owned a house here, weren't paying tax here, had health insurance in terms of travel because it's temporary, not permanent. And then they would go back to England and use the National Health Service, or they'd go back to America and use their health service there, or wherever they were going, Sweden, whatever, Netherlands. And suddenly, the countries that are not in the EU, UK, Australia, America, South Africa, wherever you're from, no, you can't. You can't just retire without a retirement visa. Again, I exclude the very wealthy, because you can buy a golden visa. There's ways to invest in Italy and France, in all these countries, in Spain, in Portugal. You can invest a certain amount of money if you are a millionaire, or perhaps even less than a millionaire, and you can get residence in Europe. But we're not talking about those kind of people. We're talking about the kind of people who actually pay tax, like us, like me, for example. Okay, so I'm going to get to what I promised you, which countries actually allow you to live on your pension without taxing you. So I'm going to give you the whole list. Some of them are in Europe and some of them are not in Europe, but that's okay. I'm just going to run through them. There's 13 countries. Can you guess who they are? Okay, you tell me. Write down in the comment box if you know a country in which you don't pay tax on your pension, because this is crucial information. And that's what tonight's video is all about. So number one, you probably have heard of Panama. Where is Panama? Somebody's going to tell me in the box. I do believe it joins 2 continents. We've all heard of the Panama Canal. Costa Rica, you've probably heard of lots of people talking about Costa Rica. Why is everybody obsessed with Costa Rica? Because they don't tax pensions. So if you have a nice, healthy, fat pension and you've been paying in for years into your Social Security from the States or whatever, especially from the States, a lot of people have gone to Costa Rica for this reason. There is a reason, and it's tax. The 3-letter word. I always believe that tax should be a 4-letter word, but it isn't. It is a 3-letter word, and we will dread it. Portugal, okay? Portugal, so that's why it's popular. But remember, Portugal, we're not talking about the golden visa that was scrapped. This is, can you live on your pension? Apply to be a pensioner in Portugal with that visa? Yes. Okay, that's another story. Ecuador, which is not in Europe. We know this, okay? But I'm giving you the countries as they run down. Greece. Greece has always been very popular. It went through its headaches in Europe where, you know, there was the crisis in Greece, and a lot of Greek people who were living overseas who used to come back and forth, back and forth. A lot of UK people would spend months in Greece and spend months in UK. And of course, after Brexit, that's no longer possible. You have to decide which country you're resident in, and you can only be in Europe for the 90 days. Okay, so perhaps they had a house in Greece, and perhaps now they can only go there for limited time. So we're on Greece. Greece is number 5, right? Correct me if my numbers are wrong. Right. Which other country? Belize. You've probably heard of Belize. Belize is also a country with a lot of people who have yachts and sailing, and because it doesn't tax pensions. These are crucial decisions that this government have made to attract investment and pensioners. Nicaragua is number 7. Excuse my pronunciation. It's quite late. I probably need a bit more caffeine. Then we get to number 8. the Philippines. So you might have heard of people retiring to the Philippines. The cost of living is certainly cheaper there. It's not in Europe, but as I mentioned, I'm just running down the numbers. Number 8. Number 9 is in Europe, Malta. Malta has always been popular because it's just at the bottom of Italy, sort of across from Sicily, and lovely island life with sun and lots of, casinos, gambling, and kind of investment, offshore investment arms. So people were attracted to that if they were in the financial industry. Recently, property values have become unlivable. Lots of people complain that it's not a very nice place to live in terms of rent or whatever. But it's attractive because you do not pay on your pension. If somebody knows that this information, which I've got from a reputable source, a financial source on the internet, has been updated and isn't like this anymore, you need to let me know. But as of this moment, these are the countries that do not tax your Social Security pension, your pension. Okay. Malta. Okay. So again, Malta was super popular with people moving there, English people, all kinds of people who were searching the sun, who wanted to be in Italy but preferred not to pay the tax. So I reiterate again, Italy, your dream country, you will be taxed on your worldwide pension. I'm going to say that again in case you missed it, or in case somebody wants to bookmark this point because they haven't got the patience to sit through the video. Okay, come back. Okay, so Malta. Number 10 is Mexico. Mexico has become super popular with Americans because it's very doable. You can drive there, you can fly there. There's the lovely, beaches, the sun, And of course, you can live on your pension very well. And if you had a medical emergency and you had the money, you could fly back to the States and get something taken care of if you needed to. But yes, so we've all heard about people who've retired to Mexico, sun, sangria, tequila in the sun. We've all heard of it, and nice beaches and a lower cost of living. The States has become a place for lots of reasons that I'll cover. One, the politics for the last, I don't remember the politics ever being so feverish and so divided and so completely and utterly divisive as the States is now. And so some people are coming to Europe because they want a quieter lifestyle. They like the European lifestyle. They just want to get out of the States. But they're also going to Mexico and these other countries that I've mentioned, Nicaragua, Belize, Ecuador, Portugal, Costa Rica, Panama, these countries. Okay, so Mexico. Then number 11 is Malaysia. Malaysia has always been popular because it's cheaper, the lovely life, but there are pros and cons to all these countries, but Malaysia is one of those countries that's on the list for not taxing your pension. And then we get to beautiful France that I've mentioned already. Number 12 is France. They do not tax your pension in France. And this is a great thing because it has been the determinant that gets asked of me, can you compare Italy and France, two countries that I know well and that I talk about a lot. And in the future, I'm going to be on the channel. I'm going to be interviewing people who live in France on their Social Security pension. So you can see from the States, from UK, from wherever. Some of them own a house, some of them are renting. So you can see that it is doable and what France is about. And France is certainly quite high on my list. I would have put France at number 1. I don't know why it's listed in this way. I think the title of this list is Retiring Abroad Doesn't Have to Be Complicated. So it's also ranked in terms of bureaucracy, right? But they don't tax pensions. So number 13, and the last one, can you guess what it is? Australia. So Australia doesn't tax pensions. From what I know about Australia, from the Australians I know, and I know quite a few of them who have a house here in Italy and go back and forth, they are able to go back and forth and not have limitations because they have Italian citizenship, so they have dual citizenship. So that's an issue. But often between Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, there are issues with buying a house, but we'll go into that on another video. Italy, like most countries, have an agreement about what you can and can't do in terms of purchasing property, in terms of the agreements that these countries have with each other. And so it could be impossible for you to buy a house in Italy. But we'll cover that on a future video. I don't want to veer off into real estate issues. So these are the countries. And it seems like Panama's number one. Clearly, they have less bureaucracy. It could be easier. Portugal has always been seen as a great place to retire and easy for Americans. And I'm going to be interviewing some people living in Portugal. But please be aware that the NHR program has been scrapped and they are doing something new in Portugal with the Golden Visa. And then Malta, which you probably knew about, or maybe you didn't. Greece, which is lovely. Who doesn't love going to Greece on holiday? And even better if you can buy a property there and live there permanently. And France. So I'm now going to answer some questions that get sent to me. It's question and answer time. How are you guys doing? Ah, lovely. Okay. So number one question. I'm keen to retire to France. We always rented a property there, and now I want to buy something. Will I be able to live in France? What is the requirement for the passive earning income? So I believe they're talking about the inactive visa. In other words, you can't work. It's like the elective visa for Italy. And let's put it this way. If you have provable in your bank social security payments, whether it's from UK, America, Australia, wherever you're coming from outside of the European Union, if you're European Union, you do not need to prove this. You can go and live in any country in Europe you want. You're required to register for health services, but first register as a resident, and then the health services follow after some time. Okay? That is what you can do as a European citizen. As a non-European citizen, you have to apply for whatever the elective visa is called in your country. So in France, we're talking about France in this question. It is the inactive visa. You can't work. And if you look at a figure of between 31 for a single person and 35, you're covered. You're also going to have to pay 1 year upfront of medical insurance to completely cover you. You're also going to have to secure a rent for a year. And then after your year, you will get a second year and then go on and you get your carte de séjour for France. And then from there on out, if everything goes well and you've been living there, on these years that you're getting a visa for, and then finally you could be eligible to become a permanent resident. And after 10 years of being a permanent resident, you could apply for citizenship if everything else is in line, if obviously you don't have a criminal record, and obviously everything has gone smoothly with your carte de séjour in these 10 years. Okay, so Italy is pretty much the same system. It's called an elective visa. It's about the same. So let's set a figure of between 30, because I cannot tell you the exact cents, dollars and cents, because you apply in your consulate in your country, and they have some jurisdiction and some maneuverability as to what they can ask you. They can ask you that form, this form, whatever. You have to apply in your country. You can't apply in Europe. You can't come here on holiday and then apply another question that gets asked. So, yes. So if you look at a figure between 30 and 35,000 a year, if you have that in passive earnings, then you can apply for this visa and you can live on your social security. And if it's France, it won't be taxed. Isn't that gorgeous? I covered Italy at the beginning of the video. You will be taxed on your worldwide income in Italy, unless you apply for the 7% jurisdiction, which is mostly in the south of Italy, and perhaps won't be in the city that you love and want. Or maybe it is, and good for you if it is. That's fabulous. Okay, so I guess we could get to another question. I'm going to wrap this up soon so we don't go on too long. So those watching, I'm sure you have other things to do. What is the number one question I get? I've got to scroll through some of these because some of these questions are repetitive and I don't want to answer the same question many times. I'm going to a Facebook question that got asked of me yesterday because, by the way, I have a Facebook group, Relocate to Europe. I'll put it down in the description box if you want to go enjoy that. I put all kinds of articles and videos up answering many of these questions, and also lovely things like what you can see in Italy, food, beautiful, beautiful things, not bureaucracy, obviously. And I also have a website, Relocate to Europe. I'll put the link downstairs in the description box down there. Have a look. I'll also link it in the comments. Leave me a comment. But if you would like, you can do a no obligation free call with me for 30 minutes on my website to ask me some questions if I can assist you in any way. Okay, great. So let's get to this Facebook question. Facebook group's called Relocate to Europe. Okay, lovely. So a French question. Can you stay longer than a year if you are given before the Carta Soggiorno? So it's not a Carta Soggiorno, it's Carta Soggiorno. Soggiorno is Italy. But anyway, yes, you apply for that first year in your country, again, in your country that you're living in or coming from. Can't apply in France. You can't go on holiday and then apply in France. You can't come to France and then change your reason for staying. Same with Italy, same with any European country, okay? And it's the same in Portugal and it's the same in Spain, countries that I cover. So you would have to go to your consulate in London or in Miami or New York or in California, wherever you're living in Australia, and ask them for the requirements. You have to make an appointment. Getting an appointment would be the hardest thing to do because there's a list and there's a waiting list, but that's fine if you want to do it, and it's all possible. As I say, I'm going to interview friends who've done it, who are living in France in a rental. They don't own property. They're not wealthy. So yes, it's all doable. Okay. Another question. If I buy a property in Italy, can I live there? This is somebody who's asking about Sicily, the 1 euro scheme, or they've seen a house for 40,000. I've covered this in nearly every video I've done in the last 6 months, and I'll cover it again because a lot of people just will not accept that this is reality. So you fall in love, you watched a channel about the 1 euro house scheme. I made a video about that, about what you need to be cautious about. You need to go and watch through my playlist. I'll hook the playlist up there and then you can work your way through what you need to know. It doesn't come with a right to residence. You can buy a house in Italy. You can renovate the house in Italy. If you're buying a 1 euro house, please be careful because you could land up spending 60,000 and still not be able to register the thing because it contravenes some law and you didn't have the right geometer who did the right registration, the commune. So it can go badly wrong. And I've seen so many people get bitten by this. It's not good. You might as well have bought a house that you loved, that was ready to move into in the area you wanted, which has the services you wanted, for 60,000, and you wouldn't have had to renovate it. But people get sucked into this cheap house scheme. It works out for some people. The ones that I've seen that it's worked out is mostly Americans with quite a bit of money to invest. They don't want to live in this house. They want to just put their money in and run it as an Airbnb or rent it out permanently. And they renovate it, and they've got the money, and they're not in a huge rush to get in, and they can renovate it properly. And and they can take a little bit of a more relaxed view on it. It could be great. But if it's your only residence and you've staked your whole life on it, and then you get to Italy and you find out that it doesn't come with residence. Doesn't come with residence. Okay, lovely. Okay, let me know any questions you have down in the comments. I'm ready for them. And I hope this was useful for you making a decision on your tax. I do not answer personal tax questions, but we work, and I've sent many people to tax specialists here in Italy and in France, and they're English speaking. So if you need a link, I can send you a link. But as I mentioned, down there is the website. You can have a call, and maybe you don't need the tax specialist. Maybe you do. Maybe you need real estate services, whatever. Your questions can be answered. So from here in Italy, I'm going to have a final sip of my cold tea and say I'm so looking forward to Christmas. Some of you asked me about the candelabra I spoke about on my last video, where I did the video on the flea market. Do you see that? Look at that. Isn't that the most beautiful candelabra? Heavy silver. And that's one of the things I got at that flea market visit, and various other things. But I've been asked about it, so I thought I'd just give you a quick view. So if you watched the last video on my visit to the big brocante, the big antiques market, that was the candelabra I was talking about. So from Amanda here in Italy, I wish you a lovely evening. It's Wednesday evening. It's not my traditional Sunday, but you're going to watch this back. Let me have your comments. Please let me have your likes. I really appreciate it. And if you want to subscribe, what are you waiting for? Bye for now. See you on the next one. Ciao. Bye. See you soon. See you soon on the moon in stream.